wait. And baby, I'm TFC till I die.
Hello and welcome back to Toronto Till I Die, the Toronto FC fan show. I'm Mike Newell, and off the top, before we get started, really quickly, just want to send thoughts to all those in Liverpool. We just heard about, obviously, the tragic events there at the end of the championship parade. I know we have some Liverpool fans in the chat and who listen also on podcasts, so thoughts go out to all of you there, and hopefully, we have as good a resolution of a situation like that as we can possibly get. But hard to transition into a show about a very bad football team, but we will do our best. Toronto FC, of course, played a game on the weekend. They lost another game on the weekend. We'll talk a little bit about that against Nashville. We'll tee up a little bit of Philadelphia coming into town this Wednesday. And then sort of just talk about, the run into the international break and sort of how important these next two games are. And then we'll obviously take some of your feedback in the chat. And yes, as we are, AFC Toronto is saying, the whole crew is back in the house. Indeed, sure. It is Michael Singh and Jeffrey P. Nesker on the screen with me. Guys, how you doing? How was your weekends? It's just good to have us all back in one space again.
Yeah. I mean, I know I didn't go to the Nashville game because the entire public transit system conspired against anybody that wasn't in the city center getting there. Wonder if you went, Mikey Singh. I know Mike Newell probably didn't go either.
No, I mean, I feel like I share a lot of TFC's sentiment here, where I don't think I would go above and beyond right now to watch this team and go out and
that's fair.
BMO Stadium to watch this team, at least in person. I still watch every game, obviously. I still, wish all the best for Toronto FC. I just think, the effort being put in by fans to attend the games. I commend everyone who does it. Just me personally, there's a lot going on, and it's not something that I prioritize nowadays. And that speaks kind of the state of the club.
I'm getting the same kind of messages from a lot of people as well, right? Like they still love the club, they're still watching the games, but if it's kind of one of those like, give me something and I'll give you something back, right? Like, and they just not feeling they're getting that. I was not at the game. It was my wife's birthday. There was no chance in hell that I was going to be able to get out of that and be like, hey, babe, for your birthday, let's go down to
go see
this really
TFC
bad
lose.
Soccer team I complain about every single week for your birthday. That was not going to happen at all. So instead we did what you wanted to do, which is fine, and then watch the game the next day. But let's talk about it. 2-1 loss to Nashville on the weekend. Sam Sturridge brace, Jonathan Osorio with a late consolation goal, a very nice, well-taken goal from Jonathan Osorio. He hits the 50-50 club, 50 goals, 50 assists for Toronto FC, and not that far off from when he scored his first goal, 13 years ago, or whenever he scored that goal. So, look, I don't know how you guys are feeling about Toronto FC at the moment. And it's hard to come up with new ways to say this team is just not that great at the moment. But Saturday's performance, I mean, I think you see a lot of effort. I don't think this is 2023 where we just were criticizing this team for effort and quitting on games. I don't think this team quits on games. I just think this team's just simply not good enough. I don't know how you feel about it. I'd love to get your thoughts. Mr. Singh, I'll start with you.
Yeah, heading into the game, there was definitely some momentum for TFC. Obviously, coming off that 6-1 win against CF Montreal, you're coming back home. We talked about it last week, Mike. There's opportunity for this team to start to put the first chapter of the season kind of behind them. First quarter of the season, third of the season, whatever you want to call it. To do that, they had to overcome a Nashville team that's rolling, right? A Nashville team that's in terrific form, a Nashville team that is looking like one of the best teams, not just in the Eastern Conference, but in MLS this season right now. They're fifth in the entire league overall, I think they're undefeated in their last 6 games. They're a team that's in, like I said, just terrific form. They're fairly healthy. Obviously, Walker Zimmerman making that late cameo for them. You still got the Hani Mukhtar and Sam Surge to deal with, which obviously hurt TFC in a big way. But yes, they're a formidable opponent this season. But in order for TFC to start to kind of change the narrative a little bit, this is the type of team that they would have had to put in a performance and B, get some kind of result against, as we look to really earn that faith back from the supporters, from the fans. They were better than they have been against previous tough teams that they've played, in the sense that I felt like this was a game where they created a little bit more, even though they didn't create an insane amount until the second third of the game, final third of the game. But they actually did create a little bit more. And really the difference in this game was just 1 or 2 brilliant moments by Nashville's designated players, and TFC's designated players weren't able to come up with moments like that to match that. So, that's the overall difference in this one. And it was a missed opportunity for TFC to really start to build some momentum as they head into a really tough stretch here coming up, starting on Wednesday against Philadelphia.
Yeah, you sound like a broken record. The other team's DPs created the moments to win the game, and our DPs did not. Not a new narrative for TFC fans. Jeffrey, we've talked a lot about this team, obviously, and sort of, the effort. And again, I think the effort was there, but at a certain point, you kind of look at this team and kind of think, this team is kind of what it is. But, what is your perspective on sort of this first quarter of the season and where this team might be going?
Well, first shout out to the Arsenal women's team for winning the championship, or winning the Champo, because that made my weekend after a lot of not good things with the Arsenal men's side. I mean, listen, I love what Mikey Singh said. There are things that I used to religiously watch around TFC that I just don't watch anymore. The post-game press conferences, I won't touch them with your ears and your eyes, because I already know what's going to be said, and I already know how madness-inducing it's going to be. And I treat that as like a microcosm. Listen, there are people baying for blood. They're like, Robin Fraser should get up there after a loss and just sit down and trauma dump on everybody, right? Which is completely unrealistic. He's not going to do that. He's not going to call out his bosses. He's not going to call out players that his bosses are hoping to move, And then the other option is don't show up to the press conferences, which is equally insane. You have to be there. But he's going through the motions. And I think that I can apply that to TFC as a whole. They're going through the motions. And that's what's so frustrating about this, is that somewhere, somehow, there has to be some accountability. I mean, that's why people are so aggravated and hanging on to words that Keith Belly said, in passing to 3 people 6 months ago. Well, he said this and he said that. Is because, how did we get here? How did we get to this place where we're not even celebrating mediocrity? We're all gaslighting each other. It's celebrating effort. They're professional footballers. That should be the bare minimum. The effort to play a game for 90 minutes. I'm sorry, but if you don't want to do it anymore, there's 1,000 other people killing to take your place. It's so illogical. It's like a slap in the face to everything that we're supposed to think about and what we hold dear about this. Nobody agreed to just be passengers on this ride that the club is taking us on through mediocrity. Towards what goal? I mean, the obvious goal is getting out from underneath the contracts that they signed. So it's of course people have malaise about this. You look at other football, right now we'd be happy to just be competitive. That's how far that we've fallen, and we're just getting lip service that is completely ridiculous from all aspects. From everyone, yeah. And then just to tie a bow on it, it's so clear that they're punting on this season. It couldn't possibly be any clearer, right? So what impetus is there for us to join them on this journey, right? if you're punting on the season, that's great. Enjoy an empty stand. Like, well, I'm going to go pay $30 for a Coke Zero to watch a team that doesn't want to be there. I mean, that's some great advertising. So yeah, and it is what it is, right? Like, if this isn't rock bottom, I don't know what the hell is, guys.
Oh,
Like,
I'm not sure. I agree necessarily that this is rock. I think we saw 2023 was rock bottom to me.
On a sporting perspective, but this is like rock bottom on like this isn't even club in crisis. Like, this is, I don't even know what this club is anymore beyond like a license to print money and make us sad, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess so, but I mean, I do think that. I mean, maybe I'll get your take on this. Look, we can talk about the game, but realistically, TFC were not really great in the first half. They kind of brought it a little bit more in the second half, created some chances, but really, in the end of the day, you have Hani Mukhtar and Sam Sturridge really changed the game for Nashville in a lot of different ways, and obviously in goals as well. But Robin Fraser came out. I think it was post game. But somebody correct me if I'm wrong, if it was post game or pre game, and it was asked directly about sort of the fans in the stands, or the lack of fans in the stands, to some degree, and I'm paraphrasing the question, but it was more around what would help get people back into the stands. What is going to help people get back in the stands? What is sort of his thoughts on that? And he simply just said, "Look, we win games and people come back." And my take is simply that he's right from a very technical sense. Yes, people will buy tickets and go back, but will the vibe kind of be the same? And that's the thing I'm not 100% sure on. And I wonder what you guys are thinking about that, because yes, there's been the protests, and that seems to have now sort of subsided for now. It looks like people are
how effective.
Well, I mean, they can. What are you going to do, right? Like, realistically, what are they really going to do? But the silence was heard to a certain extent. There's not really much the club's going to be able to do about it right now. But if they start winning, and people will come back. But does the vibe really come back? To some extent, probably yes. But I wonder what you guys think about that.
To all extents, I mean. Listen, Ula bags that bicycle kick, which would, if had it gone in, would have been in the upper pantheon of goals scored at BMO. I'm immediately, FOMO, because I didn't take the train to go there. And we're talking about something different. We're talking about, hey, Ula's starting to connect. It's such a fine line between woeful and hopeful in MLS. It really, really is. And I think that's what kills you. Will it come back? Of course it will come back. We're sickos, give us a winning team to get behind again. And we're out there at the parade, freezing our nuts off, just like we were in 2017. Do I think that there'll be a bit of a stink left over? Absolutely. Absolutely. Because this club has put us on the BS train for far too long.
Yeah. It's dangerous to get caught up in that kind of like results driven game. Right. I'm guilty of it. I feel like everyone's guilty of it, but you look at a 2-2 draw and, like Jeff said, you feel a little bit better. You talk about this team very positively, and like the margin for that is at times pretty narrow and pretty slim. Right. I look at where TFC is, as you mentioned, Jeff, and very accurately say this is kind of a lost season. The way I try and look about it is, are they getting closer to that vision that they've laid out at the beginning of the season, and that vision for what this Toronto FC team wants to be? And that's that, I forget exactly what Jason Hernandez said, but essentially along the lines of, the bare minimum has to be, if you want to wear that Toronto FC shirt, you are working for 90 minutes of the game and you're working your tail off. They want to be a team that's at home to be direct and quick and decisive on the ball and dictate the overall tempo and feel of the game. And it's tough I don't see that progress being made. And I don't know if we will see that progress being made this season, just given the players that TFC currently have. look, it's a rebuilding year in a lot of ways, and the biggest way will be roster composition. We know that they're not committed to a lot of players beyond this season. We know that even the players that they brought in on loan deals with the option to buy. So is there progress being made in terms of making this team a little bit more, let's say the word competitive? They're not necessarily competitive yet, but are they more competitive than they were at the start of the year? Yes. But, we're 15 games into the regular season, one poor Canadian championship. Or actually, I don't want to say poor. It was an okay performance, but didn't get the result. But, one disappointing Canadian championship result. I guess the question I'll ask you guys is, let's look at Robin Fraser and the cards that he's been given to dealt, working with. How would you evaluate his performance, I guess, so far through 16 matches?
As a football coach, C-. As a tight wire circus performer, A+. I mean, the man has inherited a poison chalice. He's damned if he does, he's damned if he didn't. If he doesn't, I think, it's been a wonder to watch him try, but I don't understand his substitutions. I don't understand his lineups. I don't understand some of his in-game decisions. I don't know if that's his lack of skill or if it's something coming down further down the pipe, like you have to play these people or you have to play that people. I don't know anymore. I don't know if these are sporting decisions or if these are vibes decisions or if these are insane decisions coming down from, the golf CEOs at the top of the food chain. And that's, I don't know if I can grade him right now, capably, even though I just did.
Yeah, I'm a little bit more optimistic on Roger. Like, look, I think you are seeing some tenets of what he wants to do. It's mostly defensively that you're seeing it. Look, I think this team is first and foremost built trying to be hard to beat, right? Trying to be difficult to play against and difficult to break down and score. So from that perspective, I think he gets a pass there. I think you're seeing that. You can see some of the ideas in the attacking play. I just think right now, I don't know if, and it's weird to say when you have 2 European Championship winners on the team and you have Ulam Brent Hills, like you should in theory be pretty competent in attack. I'm not saying you're league best or anything like that, but should be somewhat competent. And it's a little disjointed in attack. And that's something that I think evolves. And that maybe speaks more to, like, you're not committed to a lot of people long term, as you pointed out, Mike. So right now, I think he's fine. I think you really probably have to judge him next year. I don't know how you really judge him this year. Like you look, we will. That's what we'll do. But I find it hard to just really, really judge him now when we know a lot of these players are just not going to be back next year. So, like, what are you really working with here?
Yeah, I mean, look. Go ahead, Jeff.
Well, here's my question to you, right? You said starting to see a bit of his tactics and moves in attack. Yeah, we're seeing one of them over and over and over again, and it works like 0.2% of the time. So here's my question for both of you, right? Why is Fede playing hero ball all the time? Why is Fede only playing with Insigne? Is that a fault of the manager? If so, that's bad. Or is it the fault of these players that consistently decide on the pitch to ignore whatever tactical instructions they've been given, go into free rolls and try the same old asinine nonsense over and over again, much to the chagrin of the Olas, of the Prince Owosus? I don't know. And that can't not be levied as a complaint against the gaffer, right? Who's making these calls? And if it's been 2 games of the players on the pitch making the calls, well, don't you expect your gaffer to course correct in the locker room? Or has he got no teeth with these people, like every other manager that's come through this revolving door and been waylaid by these frauds, right? Like, I don't know, but I don't think he gets a free pass for that, right?
Yeah, I mean, like, I guess my rebuttal to you would be, do you think this team is better offensively with the ball now today than they were at the start of the season?
I think they're better defensively. And I think that that's a testament to his skill as a defensively minded coach, especially when you take into account the massive injuries that are going across our defensive core. Offensively, no, not at all. I mean, I hate to say it, but I think Herdman was a bit more astute in his insane let's play Berna as an attacking wingback, which is something that Fraser refuses to do. I mean, I think Theo is useless on the left and actually brings something to bear on the right, but aside from like bits and pieces, we barely see that, and he's still starting on the left. So I have a lot of questions. And I have a ton of questions. Like, you know, Matty Longstaff's not getting any minutes, but the guys that are getting minutes are not exactly lighting the place on fire. So why is Matty not getting any minutes? I mean, why was Kobe Franklin not getting any minutes when, you know, he's 2 seasons removed from Player of the Year? Like,
here's a legit question for that. Why didn't we start, or why didn't TFC start Terry Spicer on
again? Yeah.
Right. Like,
I think there's an answer. I think Theo's in good form, right? They're both in good form, right? Like this. I mean, right? They're both in good form, and you've got a little bit of competition in that space, and that's not a bad thing. To answer your question, do I think this offense has improved since the opening week? Let's just say, no. I think it's kind of status quo. I don't think it's any worse than opening day. I think we walked into the season all knowing scoring goals was going to be a problem for this team. We looked at it from, I think you and I, Michael, at the beginning in January. We're like, great, like who's scoring goals for this team? Like, we don't really know. And I think we still don't know, right? Like, we still don't really know who's going to, I mean, Fede, but like, realistically, who's going to be banging in 10, 15 goals for this team this year? Simply put, we don't have anybody who can do that right now. So from that perspective, I think it hasn't improved. I don't think it's declined in any way. I just think it's just is what it is, right? It's a team that's going to rely on Federico Bernardeschi to create something. You may every other or every third game get something out of Theo Corbiano and Tyrese Spicer. And then you got to hope that Ola Brynhildsen kind of hits, right? And if that works out, then maybe you slightly improve your offense. But if it doesn't, then we're back to where we thought this team was going to be at the beginning of the year, a team that's going to struggle to score goals.
Yeah. I mean, I think they are better with the ball than they were at the start of the season. I understand from like a results perspective. I mean, even from a results perspective, they've scored more goals than they did when they started the...
Yeah, what is it, 10 goals in the last 5 games? That's actually a better stat than Nashville.
Well, when you score 6 in one of them... And
Montreal, that's fair.
Montreal,
it's 4.
Not to say the 6 goals, but it was Montreal.
It's not no more so they found the back of the net. It's more so I feel like they are more deliberate with the ball. They're more confident with the ball. Even against Nashville, like to pin a team like Nashville in their final third for 30 some odd minutes.
That's fair.
When trailing. And really the goal that they gave up was the second goal at least is a very weak goal against the run of play. You know, that's a sign of a team that has shifted, I think in confidence, really. I think that's the biggest thing. Maybe a little bit tactically, but more so that they are more confident in the final third. Have they created more chances? I think they created more chances. Like, is it, clear cut? No, not quite, or not at that stage, not that at the level yet, but at least it is, something a little bit closer to more of that product that they're looking for. That said, like, listen, this is the type of stuff that we're talking. It's margins at this stage in the season, and for TFC fans, that's nowhere near where you want this team to be. Is there a guy on this team that can score 10, 15 goals? Can Ula be that guy? Did we see enough out of Ula on Saturday following his strong Montreal game to convince you that he could be that guy?
No, but again, I find it hard to rate him like at the moment.
Me too.
Because I don't know if he gets the service. You know what I mean? I think he's a guy who can. I don't know if he creates on his own. He runs well. He holds the ball up really well. and clearly has an eye for some flair. But is he a guy who's going to create on his own? I don't think so. He needs some service.
That's
He's
why
not
I was
getting enough
saying,
of that.
why not start Tyrese Spicer? Because he's a guy that whips in service to that number 9 role when he can, when he just burn defenders down the right.
Fair, but I would also counter that if, again, Theo Corbianu is on form and you really can't play Tyrese Spicer as a left wing back. I think we kind of know now that we can't really play him as a left back. That's not his best position, and he's not a really great defender. He'll give you a lot of effort, don't get me wrong.
He's an okay defender.
He's okay. He's no Chucky Lozano.
He's got some recoveries.
He's okay.
Okay, he's got recoveries, but positionally, he has a lot to be desired. And granted, he's a second-year pro, so there is that. But from that perspective, like, I can understand why Theo starts, right? I completely understand why he starts in that game, and I think
I don't think I do, but yeah.
Right, but again, it wasn't the right decision. I don't know, but again, I can see the why.
I mean, he came off 2 goals. Game before. He was still in decent form, so I understand what you're saying. Like, you want to be at home, maybe you play a little bit more of a tagging style. I just think, man, from what they've seen out of Tyrese Spicer this season, especially early on before he went down injured too, like, he was the only thing at going down that left hand side. Theo's rounded into form, but he offers something different. And again, I think the jury's, for me personally, still out on exactly what Theo Corbianu can bring game in, game out. But yeah, I don't know. That's just one I question. Personally, I like Robin Fraser's 11s that he's rolled out this season. I think the decision to drop Maxi Dominguez a little bit deeper alongside Davy Flores. I thought the midfield is actually looking a little bit better right now. Obviously, keeping Lorenzo as that number 10. I don't mind that either. I think, if we want to get into Lorenzo a little bit, he's completely lost every bit of pace that he's had.
The second goal.
He's a tank out there.
Literally, he was just like, I'm not catching this guy. Like, you almost want to half yell at him and be like, oh, come on. But then you realize, like, yeah, he could come on, but he'd probably pop a hamstring trying to do that, man. Like,
yeah, congratulations to Napoli for your second Scudetto without the fraud, by the way. Congratulations. Sorry. I hate him.
No, but like, seriously though, like, at this point of his contract, his deal, like, we knew he'd deteriorate. I just didn't think he'd be this slow. But there's no way I think you can move him back out on the wing. Like, I just think he'd be way too much of a liability out there.
No, I think
he's way too much of a liability out there. Full stop.
Yeah, I mean, if he's not creating much and he really hasn't been creating too much, then it's tough to argue, right? What you get at Lorenzo is not his defensive ability.
His tracking back. What you're saying, his tracking back's not great.
No, his tracking back leaves. I mean, actually, I was kind of on the Lorenzo. The word escapes me.
Redemption.
Yeah, redemption arc. Because there were a few games, like not the last one and not the one before that, or maybe the Montreal one, where he was doing some cute little free roll interplay with his favorite and only playmate on the pitch there that I thought was really interesting. But again, totally unsustainable. Forget about talking about not worth the money. It's not worth the roster spot. Like, that's not a 10. Yeah. Well, again, can I bring up, quickly, Louis Riaz before I forget. Pretty damning on the players that haven't built any chemistry from last season and seem to have started this year at ground zero. I agree with Louis, but I mean, how much there's a bunch of loanees that are here for a year on their loanee adventure and probably not coming back. And then there's the other guys that know that they're not coming back when their contracts are gone. I think that applies to last year as much as, at least half as much as it applies to this year. Like, I understand they're professionals and that should be the baseline, but also a complaint like Louis sort of doesn't leave any margin for the fact that most of these people know that there's no space for them in the club's future plans. So, like, how much chemistry do you want them to develop, like, for your own personal enjoyment when they've got one foot out the door?
Well, wouldn't the issue just be you're changing coaches year after year after year?
Well, that you're changing a lot of formations, but also the thing worth mentioning, in theory, it sounds okay, it makes sense. But you look at it practicality, look at their 11 on Saturday. Obviously Sean Johnson's a regular. Sure, how much chemistry is he going to build with players? I don't know, maybe some of his distribution. You have Kevin Long and Sigurd Rosted at center backs. Sigurd Rosted barely played last year, right? How much chemistry is he actually going to build? So if you look at the actual 11s, and the only regulars that were there is Kevin Long, Davy Flores, Lorenzo playing a new role, and Federico Bernardeschi playing in a role that he didn't play in last year. Everyone else on that pitch is either playing a completely brand new role, like a Kosi Thompson at right back, or just was not there last season. So there's a new 11 almost every game, and maybe at times even new formations, new systems. Could we see them build some quote unquote chemistry moving forward? Yeah, potentially. But when you look at last year versus this year, like it's tough to, especially the way last year ended too. It's just tough to really ask that. It really did feel like a bit of a, even though it's a lot of the same players, a bit of a fresh start for this team.
Yeah, and I think you just have a hard time with this team gelling when you look at somebody like a Kosi Thompson that you just mentioned. This is his fourth coach in 4 years since he since he got a first team contract. You move from right back to the midfield, slightly attacking, a little bit defensive. Now he's back at, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, this is what happens when you can't build any consistency in your front office, in your coaching staff. Mentality changes, thought process on the game changes, your specific role in a team changes every single year, and you're asked to do something a little bit different or new. How do you build that chemistry when it may be the same guys you're playing with, but you're asked to do completely different things? And that is what happens when teams change coaches all the time, and you get into a cycle of doing this. And look, I think John Molinar wrote an article today or yesterday. It might have been in his mailbag column, where somebody asked him about this team and how does he continue to pump up articles about this team when they're bad game after game after game. And he was talking about sort of the pre-glory years, and for those who were around for that time, like, it's not as bad as then. But one of the issues of those teams were that they changed coaches, players, front office staff. It seemed like every 16 to 18 months. And when you get into that cycle, man, there is just no way to build any kind of cohesion at any level. And how can you be asked to be a successful organization? Forget even just on the pitch for a second, like scouting, finding players, signing players, making decisions on how the philosophy is going to be. You build this philosophy, and now everybody's asking Jason Hernandez to get sacked. Like, what do you think is going to come after that if that happens, right? At some point, you're going to have to build with somebody and try. Now, obviously, if you have clearly the wrong person, yes, get rid of them. But, I don't know if TFC necessarily have the wrong people in charge at the moment. I think right now what we're going through is a growing pain of, we tried something with Bob Bradley, this did not work, right? And we're still undoing a lot of that. I know people don't want to hear that as the last thing anybody wants to talk about, but a lot of those things, we're undoing that, not just from just a players on a roster perspective, but from like a culture setting perspective. Even like you're still going to have to do a lot of things that Bill Manning brought in from a culture perspective as president.
The biggest
thing. Yeah, right. And
the biggest
there's a
thing.
reason, right? And there's a reason why Keith Pelly has not hired a president for TFC right now. Like, it seems like that's going to be an MLSC wide kind of thing, except Masai, because you can't touch Masai. But
yeah, touch him.
Well, they're trying. I mean, you could, but it depends. If they're in the lottery again, we'll see. But that said, like, it sounds like, at least for now, Keith Pelly's kind of going to be a bit of that culture. At least he wants to be a part of building cultures in these clubs. And
on TFC?
Sorry?
Did you catch his comments on TFC?
I did. I was actually just going to highlight a conversation.
Way to go, Clokey. My goodness.
MLSE seems to happy with TFC performance. So yeah, so we're
in the Leafs end of year
season press conference, Joshua Cloak from The Athletic asked, which probably never happened in a Maple Leaf press conference ever.
I'm so proud of him. I love him so much.
Literally was like, I know.
But what about TFC?
What about TFC for a second?
No. To be fair to Josh, it wasn't a specific TFC question. Yeah. It was a Maple Leaf question that, for whatever reason, Keith Pelley decided he was going to answer it from a TFC perspective, which, to TFC fans.
I think Josh did mention, like, you're not doing this with this kind of TFC.
So
you don't have a president.
Yeah, I thought he said like oh, cool. Shanahan's not going to be president. Like, do you think they're going to end up the same way TFC ended up? I thought it was kind of a leading question a little bit.
He prefaced it with TFC, but did say what have you learned from that experience that makes
bring
you
more to the Leafs?
Want to do this with the Leafs, essentially. I'm paraphrasing, obviously. But yeah, to continue what Mike was saying, he went on to say that TFC are on the right track, and he's very confident that this team will be a contender every year. He essentially pumped the tires of Toronto FC and was very happy with the progress the team has made. I would have loved to ask,
do you have eyes?
What makes you think that, right, from his perspective? Because listen, the reality is, like, we're all stuck and situated in this game by game mentality. But from a bigger picture perspective, there's a plan going on behind the scenes, right? We talk about, Jason Hernandez quite a bit. Jason Hernandez, we talk about the contracts. Like, there's wheels in motion for this team beyond 2025. Right, 2025, as we've all talked about, even at the beginning of the show, it's a write-off. Like, this team is not. If whatever happens this year is a bonus for this team.
Yeah, if they have a run and finish 10th, I think they're happy.
Well,
not happy, but
which is pathetic. Like,
well, I mean, to also be fair, like, some of the criticism is definitely warranted because they brought it upon themselves. Like Keith Pelley himself saying at that supporters gathering at the start of the year that their goal is for TFC to be a playoff team this year or make the playoffs this year, right? So they've definitely underperformed and undershot where they wanted to be. I think when you look at the players that Jason Hernandez brought in this season, I mean, listen, last year I thought it was one of the stronger years when it came from a transfer market perspective. This year, I think there's been a lot of swings and misses, but to his credit, those swings and misses haven't hamstrung TFC. These aren't long-term contracts. These aren't big money contracts, right? These are loans that TFC can opt out of after the end of this year, which was intentional because guess what? All eyes are on 2026. And that's where this team is kind of rebuilding towards. So I would love to have asked, like I said, just circling back, Keith Pelley, what makes him so optimistic, and maybe you get a little bit more out of this team's actual long-term vision and actual plans that they have going on behind the scenes. But so far, they haven't, outright peeled that curtain back because there still is 2024 to play and a large part of 2024. And it'd be very unfair 2025. And it'd be
awesome. Let's go back in time. 2024 sucked. I don't want to watch that season again. So it'd be
unfair to the players for them to have to hear that come out of the mouths of the the GM and the guy pulling the strings. So even at times with the fan base too. So I don't know. I'm not saying that 2026 is going to be the year that everything clicks and it's all going to work, but I will say that is their plan, right? And we talk about, do we have the right people there to execute that plan? It's tough to say. It really is tough to say,
it's really tough to say. You don't. I mean, as much as the word patience is like gives me hives at this point, in terms of Jason Hernandez, and as much as I disagree, I think last year was good. This year was like buying chewing gum at the supermarket. Like, you're just, Ula has been on painkillers the entire time he's been here. You're going to tell me that in world football, there were no other number 9s available that were on a loan deal for a year that weren't half broken. Like it seems like, oh, there's a striker there. We need one of those. So like it just the logic of it, beyond the fact that they were all loan deals for very obvious reasons, I find I have some issues with. Like why sign Maxime Dominguez to play him as an 8 and play Lorenzo Insigne as a 10? The man's not an 8.
One gets paid $50 million, is here for another 2.5 years, and the other is on loan.
So then what? I mean, even if they're on loan, like, what's the point? I'm sure there are other clubs that could give him more playing time. Like, then you've got an upset asset. You've brought this guy in to play for a spot on the team. You're playing him out of position. He's not even starting.
Upset paying as a number.
I think he's happy to be playing, right? But in the same context, like, there could be somebody else that's happy to be playing. Like, you don't have to just grab the first option on the table. And I feel
has been decent.
He's played well.
Needed.
I don't disagree, but I mean, to not start, and when he does get starts, it's in the wrong position, and he's platooning for Lorenzo Insigne in the 10 role. Like,
but again, I don't think. Again, I don't know about that. Like, I think they've done their homework on these players. The question then becomes:
are you available? Yes, cool. Come on, that's the homework they did.
No, I think you've done homework on these players.
Can you breathe oxygen? Amazing. Let's go. Do you have your own shoes?
I don't think. I think they've done some homework on these guys, but they're taking the safe route on this. The old TFC goes and gives these guys a 3-year contract and puts them on TAM money, right? Mm-hmm. Now you do is essentially get an audition time. Like I'm going to see if you can actually do this, and if you're good enough, we sign you.
Specifically this year, they do that because like I said, it's towards 2026. I don't know if this will be a permanent strategy for TFC signings moving forward, because that just weakens their position in the market. Mm-hmm. But specifically for this year, to give them that flexibility, because there was a lot of variables, a lot of moving parts as Jason Hernandez tried to build out this team. You go for that flexible option, and that's how you end up with guys like Theo Corbenil or Ula Brunhills. And to be fair, I think Ula was brought in with an eye to be a TFC player beyond this season.
Agreed.
And I still think there's a chance that he is a TFC player beyond this season. However, we're 15 games in to the MLS season, and he hasn't shown nearly enough to warrant that DP tag, which is what they would have to pay him, or what they'd have to make him if he signs for TFC and that deal becomes permanent. So, I mean, he's a good player. He's a good striker. I don't know too much about the injury situation with him and why he's on painkillers and when that happened, but we can outright say that throughout 15 games of this short-term deal so far, it hasn't worked. But I'm not here saying you write Ula off. Like, I still think he can absolutely be a player. I just, at some point, you got to see it, and we haven't seen it yet from Ula. But
So the question is, do we see it Wednesday night against the top team in the Eastern Conference?
What a segue! What a segue! Have you been doing this for a while? Because that was elite. That was elite. My goodness.
Wednesday night might be tough to watch. No Fede. I believe who else is carded out?
Cozy.
Sorry,
isn't Davey? Cozy.
Cozy. Yeah. So no Cozy, and your other conceivable right backs are hurt right now because Kobe Franklin's out.
We're gonna win it 40-0. No Fede on the field.
Richie's close.
But Richie won't play on Wednesday.
No,
I don't think so.
Okay.
Is he fit enough to play? I thought they said he wasn't going to be fit enough for at least another couple of weeks.
He's got to play for Canada.
I thought it was end of the month that he'd be ready to go.
Maybe. I thought he was gonna. I thought they were gonna take it easy with him, but he might be back. But I mean, again, that's just a piece where look, we know what Richie can do, but again, he's been on the shelf literally since the 10th minute of the first game of the season.
He's got a nasty habit of doing that.
Yeah, and again, you're also playing a team that's just on fire right now in Philadelphia, and 3-3 draw against.
Excuse me, we're on fire right now. They're in good form. We're on fire. Use the on fire properly to denote a garbage fire. Yeah.
But and you come into this game with the MLS Golden Boot leader right now, and Ty Baribo, who looks like I watched a little bit of that Inter Philly game on the weekend, and
me too.
Oh boy.
Yeah, he's scorching.
He might be in trouble.
He's a baller. 100%.
the number 2 team in the league right now. To
Yeah,
Vancouver.
they're first top in the East. Only the Whitecaps. The Whitecaps are the last unbeaten team, I think.
Wow. No, they lost one game, Whitecaps.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that during the break, right?
Game. But I mean,
but hey, like I mean, you got that, and then you get Charlotte after that on Saturday, and
on
Charlotte,
a heater as well.
Well, they were on a downer for a bit. I think they had lost like 5 straight, and then they won on the weekend.
Did you see that through ball? That Wilfred Zaha through ball? That was a thing of beauty. It was absolutely unbelievable.
I didn't see that
they've
one.
not been happy with him so far.
No.
Yeah, because he's there's not a microphone he won't get in front of and like slag everybody. It's crazy. Yeah.
My goodness. So that marriage may not last too much longer, but. Look, these are 2 tough teams, 2 teams in playoff positions right now, and I don't know. I mean,
attendance predictions for Wednesday night.
I'll go. I'm gonna be.
I'll be there. I'll be there.
I don't think it's gonna end well. just my.
But he wants to know attendance. We completely glossed over.
I still don't think it's.
We're going to be there, so it doesn't matter. Yeah.
There'll be 3 people and a dog. No. Attendance wise, look, I think a midweek's gonna be
midweek game.
They announced 19,000 on Saturday.
I wasn't there Saturday, so it's hard to tell.
I wasn't there, but it looked like way less on the TV. It looked.
It did look less, and I think a lot of people were surprised by that number. But, what are we thinking? Like 17?
It's not on the realm of possibility. I think.
I mean,
it's weird.
What shenanigans are they going to do? Right? Like, is it gate or turnstile or because there's an asterisk all the time now.
Sometimes weeknight games though, like Wednesday night, if people are in town. If they're out of town but working downtown, like they'll show up. Like sometimes a weeknight game will sometimes surprise you for TFC.
Mike's telling you his life story. Sometimes when they're working but they live out of town, they'll show up to the game.
Yeah,
just like this random hypothetical person. Yeah, exactly.
Take a GO train to Hamilton.
Just wander from the Rogers Center over. You might be surprised, but most likely, probably Richard's right here. It's probably gonna be around like that.
It'll be about that. Yeah. I mean, Sean or whoever is running the We Are AFC Toronto account, who you're now quoting, Turnstile 12 reported will be 16. Probably right. They made a point earlier that I started, and I'm not looking for again. Which when we were talking about TFC getting their mojo back, and it is TFC is not the only game in town anymore. And no, I'm not talking about York United or Inter Toronto FC 2 or whatever the hell they're called. I'm talking about AFC Toronto. What was the best thing about TFC in the early days? The vibes, right? It wasn't necessarily about the soccer, although I will say that the quality of games that I've watched in the NSL have been pretty good because of the. Yes, the Meta Hawk counts for attendance. It accounts for me. It counts for attendance. And it's Mecca Bitchy, not a Metal Hawk. She has a name. Regardless, TFC has to be careful because their hubris could be their undoing, right? There are other games in town now. And AFC Toronto is on the ascent. TFC is certainly not on the ascent. Yes, AFC Toronto plays not in Toronto. It is a subway ride away. When I went to York, they didn't have that subway station, so I laugh at people that complain about it now that you can get on at Union Station and end up there in inside of an hour. But regardless, TFC's got to figure this stuff out, and they just I mean, how many times can I think it's just over and over
not to get into too much of a thing about this, but and we'll probably just wrap up the show on this, but I think those are just it's just different strokes, right? I mean, the York United crowd's the York United crowd. AFC Toronto, I wish they were playing at a bigger venue. York Lions holds about 2,500 to 2,600 people max. So those are definitely different things. And then but I think the one thing that I would say about TFC, it's not so much the city / I know the York Lions is technically not Toronto. It's it's at the very border.
They want to be so badly though.
Yeah, but it's other options like if you look here in Hamilton, people just are I'm not gonna get on this train anymore. I'm just going down the street to walk. And
it's a piece of piss. The train ride. It's just when there is no train, that precludes you getting on it, right? Like if it's like your only opportunity to get into the city is a go bus, you know, on the QEW in rush hour traffic, thanks but no thanks. What was I going to say? And I also think that listen, society has changed, right? One of the things that made Toronto FC games so amazing in 2007 was that you went out, you had a bunch of beers, it didn't break the bank. You know what I mean? Your seats didn't cost $1 zillion. Toronto wasn't the infrastructure mess it was, so getting to BMO wasn't nearly as much of a hassle as it was. You know, the fans that they're chasing, kids don't drink anymore, right? They do edibles or they drink coffee and stay home, right? So this idea of like, you know, getting back to the way it was is fallacy. It will never be the way it was. They've got to find a new way to exist.
I do think that's true. I think there is a look. As somebody who works in sports and sells tickets, like younger people like aren't going to stuff like when TFC started. Like it's just that's just not a thing. And you have to create experiences.
100%
to
an Instagram
to
wall
to go to things.
Yeah,
like
you just did it at Rogers, like the entire, you know.
So when people were talking about the championship years and people coming out and the stadium being packed and the vibe being great, like yes, part of that was of course they were winning, clearly, but another part of that was that you had these moments and these experiences within a stadium, within the stands, that just like what do people talk like? People talk about the 2016 Eastern Conference Final. From a game perspective, like on the pitch, it was incredible, of course. You know what? When people talk about it, they talk about like the experience they had in the stand and like pictures that they took when they were in the stands and things like
getting
that. Like, that's
soaking wet, like destroyed. Like
that's what people actually talk about. Some people,
Yeah.
you know, obviously like hardcores will talk about Nick Hagglund in the rain and all that, but a lot of people will talk about like, man, I did this like this crazy. It was packed in this alley, and like people were like shoulder to shoulder, and there were way more people in a row than there were seats, right? Like that kind of thing. And that's what TFC is missing at the moment. And beyond just winning, right? Winning, of course, will bring people. And that was sort of my point earlier on, was winning will bring people back for sure. People will buy tickets if they win. But if the vibe ain't this, if the vibe isn't there, yes, people will show up. But are you really creating moments that people really want to be at? And that's...
Will they come back? Yeah, will they come back? I think that's
it's debatable at this point. I mean, it's a good possibility that they win and people get the vibe again, and it's fine. But I don't know. Like I just don't know.
I don't know. Louis said it's only the winning that's the vibe. I think winning is 80 to 90% of it. But you know, then you have the intangibles. You've got the Josie Altidores and the Sebas that like make Toronto their forever home. You know what I mean? Like the team, a much more likable team than you know the sort of again. I just think it's all gone wrong for the club, right? They're at war. There's a blood feud going on with the supporters. There's a blood feud going on with football. I mean, there's a blood feud going on with rostered staff. Like it just sucks all around. And if you want to end the show there, I'm happy to do it.
Yeah, enough of our socioeconomic demographic discussion on ticket habits of Torontonians and people in southwestern Ontario.
Oh, I can go all day, man. I can do 28 more rounds of that if you want. Yeah.
Let's not.
I'll save it for the GO train.
I will save it for my day job. All right. Thank you for listening to another Toronto Till I Die. We really appreciate it. Again, the comments lit up. We are AFC Toronto. Louis, you know, Richard's in there. Chris, we saw you. Trash Pandas, shout out. For
no
those
turds today.
No turds today. But that's okay. He's probably listening on podcast, I think. For those who are watching this live and have not subscribed and hit the thumbs up, please do so. And if you're watching this on YouTube, for those that are listening a day after or days after on podcast, 5 stars wherever you can do a review for the pod. We really, really appreciate it. For Jeffrey P. Nesker, for Michael Singh, I'm Mike Newell. We will see you next week. Peace, everybody.
And for those about to rock, we salute you.
And wait, and baby, I'm TFC till I die.